Hello, and welcome to Leadership Trail Mix. I'm Miguel Oliveira, and for the next few minutes, we'll be together looking at one of the many ingredients that compose this art and science we call people leadership. Today, I'll be talking to Traci Austin, the first podcaster I have as a guest here at Leadership Trail Mix, so the stakes are high, given that she's been on this journey for a lot longer than me. Traci, welcome to Leadership Trail Mix.
Thank you so much for having me, Miguel, and amazing being your first guest. I'm so honored.
Absolutely. The honor is all mine. Traci is a seasoned HR professional, chief strategy consultant at Elevated Talent Consulting, and host of the People Strategy podcast. With 2 decades of experience building HR departments from the ground up for small businesses, Traci has dedicated her career to creating working environments where employees thrive while businesses exceed performance expectations. One thing I love about the work Traci does is her focus on supporting owners in the trades to become better people leaders, hire, train, and retain their teams. As someone who has worked in trade industries, I've seen and experienced firsthand what happens when companies don't recognize the need to provide what these members of the workforce need, which sometimes will be similar to what those in corporate roles do, but in a lot of instances, it will be different, either on what we do, how we do it, or both. So, Traci, I would like for us to start our conversation here. What are some of the similarities and differences between leading trade versus corporate employees?
Yeah, this is such a great question. And I think the bottom line is we're all humans, right? And one of the keys, that I see a distinction between, staff that are in an office and staff that are out in a field. It's very different when you're doing physical labor and things are changing consistently on a job site. You have many different items that, may create delays, etc. Versus in an office, a lot of times you get very different interruptions, but you typically have some sort of a set schedule, right? Saying, hey, can you come down to my office mail for a couple minutes is like, okay, no big deal. But it's like, if you're, out on a site and you're asked to come into an office for a conversation, it's like, well, what right? And so, that distinction of that orientation to the work and that orientation to the proximity with individuals becomes really key. A lot of times folks that are on job sites don't see their supervisors very often or have those conversations. It's coming through many different kind of items. And so communication is incredibly key. And, I mentioned the human piece. When we can connect with folks and, ensure we have clarity of communication, that doesn't change. That we have definition of the expectations, that doesn't change. But yet, understanding all of the interruptions in the job site or what's there or what's next does sometimes change a little bit.
You're getting close to episode 300 in your podcast. Congratulations. Can you share with us what the biggest lesson you've learned from the leaders you've hosted so far, and maybe share a best practice or creative solution one of your guests shared that stuck with you?
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many that I will tell you I can't pick just one, but there's definitely themes. As we're named the People Strategy podcast, different people strategies come into play. One of the most recent ones, the guest is Ray Cox, and Ray runs a engineering firm, and how he is creating tours of duty for his team members, very specifically because he hires PEs or professional engineers, right? Well, it takes 4 years to get that certification out of school. Most folks aren't going to wait 4 years for an increase or a promotion. And so creating these tours of duty really allows him to say, here's my commitment to you up front. What is your commitment back to me? And we also have that with Matt Rasmussen, who runs a construction company out of Victoria. And, it's very, very similar is, what, we're going to commit to employees on day one versus waiting to see, how are they going to work out? We're not really committing to them yet. Well, that just breeds mistrust versus are we all in up front, and how we set that up, that we set that up in our interviews, we set that up in our offers and our expectations of, look, here's how we're going to pour in and commit to you over the next 2 years, and here's our expectations from you. So it's this clarity of expectations.
That's so insightful, Tracy. Thank you so much for sharing. In my experience in HR, one of the hardest nuts to crack is the transition from individual contributor to people leader. Can you please share with us what you've seen work in the trade industry that you believe leaders, HR professionals, and professionals in general can adopt or adapt when supporting someone going through this transition or when going through it themselves?
Yeah. And I think one of that biggest transition from individual contributor to people leader is you have to change your mindset. Each person you talk to has a WIIFM on their forehead. What's in it for me? And if we are not speaking the language of the individuals that we're serving, we're not going to be successful. So, I do a lot of coaching of HR professionals. Guess what? HR in the C suite speaks two different languages. And so the coaching of our HR professionals is look, if you're going to be a people leader, you need to understand and have curiosity into what are those, key business outcomes and the needs that your executive team has. What are the needs and the outcomes that the folks that you're working with have? A lot of times, HR is kind of like this peanut butter and jelly in a sandwich that gets real messy of like, are we here for our employees or are we here for our employer? Well, guess what? We are hired by our employer. We are here to serve our employer, and we have a very significant role as a people leader of being that bridge. End of the day, we serve our employer. And it's really important with that we also are aligned with the core values of the company versus just our own personal values.
In a recent newsletter, you talked about the hidden cost of a just get it done culture. It really resonated with me, and I believe it will resonate with those listening to us. Would you mind sharing the concept, the risk, and potential antidote?
Yeah. So the just get it done culture is, I talk a lot about multiple competing priorities. There's a priority in a just get it done culture, but we're not looking at all the other pieces. And can we have a culture where we have very high expectations for work output and for the quality and the quantity of work? Yes. Does that mean we also at times need to weigh what other priorities are on folks' plates? Yes. Right? Like we talk a lot about seasons of life. Not everyone can be 100% top performer all of the time. There's things that are going to come up that knocks folks off for a bit. That happens in life or life lifes, right? And that compassion has people be much more loyal for the long term.
All right, as we get close to the end of this chat, what call to action would you leave those listening to us with today? One thing that we can start doing today to become better people leaders.
Yeah, so we have something that we really look at, and it is stop complaining and start reframing. And so, as people leaders, I want you to really look at those complaints as a poorly worded request. So, if every complaint is just a poorly worded request, as people leaders, it is your job to understand and get curious about what is underneath those complaints. And with that, you will start to uncover what drives your employees. You'll start to uncover the blockages to productivity, and to very specifically retention inside of your organization.
So, from complaining to reframing, is that right?
Yes. I mean, if you want to say it another way, it's stop bitching and start pitching. Like, that's more fun. You can cut that if you want to. However,
Oh my gosh, this is so good.
you will remember that one. So, yeah, every complaint is a poorly worded request, right? So it's like, I can't believe Miguel did this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what do you want Miguel to do? Oh, well, I don't know. So it shows you're listening, and it also shifts the responsibility of the complaint back on the person that's complaining about it.
Wow, I absolutely love that, Tracy. I learned so much from you today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Last but not least, how can people stay in touch with you?
Absolutely. Well, I've got two things. We have something called our Tough Talk audit, which If you want to download that, that will walk you through how to turn complaints into requests. Or you can find us on LinkedIn at Elevated Talent Consulting or at Traci Austin.
Traci Austin, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And that's all, folks. If you know anyone who can benefit from this content, please feel free to share it. And the invitation is still on the table. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, send me an email, miguel@leadershiptrailmix.com. Thank you for listening, take care, and talk soon.